we are in the kitchen, not with a recipe, but with some food for thought on how we think about what we eat. Here with more is registered dietitian Tess Han from Fork to Fuel. Thank you for being with us.
Thanks for having me.
Of course. Well, first we have to just have you explain what Fork to Fuel is.
Yeah, so essentially I started this Instagram page when I was in grad school, and I didn't touch it until the pandemic. That's when I had a lot of free time, and I kind of picked up some food photography, but I was really just passionate about sharing recipes that were accessible, easy to make, and that were nourishing.
Okay, and that is really, really key, because I think when we've got so many choices in this world, we go, what is what we're supposed to be eating? So I love that you've kind of developed a program for us today to kind of give us an idea of like what is good, what is bad. So let's start with this delicious section right here.
Yeah, who doesn't love cookies and cupcakes? So I want to sort of bring out words that are commonly associated with these foods.
Okay.
So the first one that I think of when we hear desserts is guilty. I feel like we hear that a lot around desserts. And so food, like desserts, get moralized a lot. And what I mean by that is that we're saying they're bad. We're bad for eating them, right? I hear parents say, I'm naughty for eating a cupcake at my kid's birthday party, right? And what happens when we start to moralize and categorize foods in that way is we sort of come into a slippery slope where we find ourselves in a toxic cycle of guilt and shame, because when we end up eating these foods, we start to feel really crappy about ourselves.
That is so true. So when we start naming it and we give it like an emotion attached to it, and it's literally just a cupcake. Chill out, cupcake. I will not.
Yeah.
I will eat you. I will eat you
Guilt
later.
is not an ingredient in any of these foods.
Guilt is not an ingredient. I love that. All right, well, these foods look like a friend of mine's cupboard that is super healthy and she's just so great, and she's talking about eating clean all the time. Is that like what we associate with this?
Yeah, that's exactly right. So the word that I chose with this group is clean. And these foods sort of get like a health halo around them, right? They're the foods that everyone thinks that we should be eating in order to be healthy. There's whole foods, these fruits, veggies, plant-based alternatives, vegan options, and this is not the only way to eat.
Okay, that's good. Listen, cauliflower puffs, you're not that great. Cupcake, I'm looking at you. And then, of course, this kind of food. This is, this is the type of food that we all turn to when we've had, as a parent especially, busy week, taking kids to practice, and then you feel terrible. Yeah, I took my kids to McDonald's last night for dinner, and you feel like you don't even want to admit that. Why? Why is that? What are we associating with this?
Yeah, so that's exactly right. We demonize these foods a lot, and a word that I've chosen for this is junk. And we could sort of interchange junk with desserts and guilty, all that
chips
as well.
And Doritos.
But yeah, these are highly demonized, and look, I'm not saying we should be eating these foods all day, every day.
No.
But we should also be able to eat them and enjoy them without feeling that guilt or shame.
Okay. And then finally, we've got this section here. I mean, we got some keto bread, which I don't even know what keto bread is, but it sounds fantastic. Skinny Pop. I have a friend who loves this so much. Like, she's got Skinny Pop coming out of her ears. And all the other things. So what is this section here?
Yeah, so I've put the word healthy for this group because these are the byproducts of the diet industry, and that's exactly what they want you to think about these foods, right? They have less carbs, zero sugar, zero fat, keto. Like, these are all in big, bold letters for a reason. Like, it's a very strategic marketing tactic. And the reason for them taking out these quote-unquote bad ingredients is for them to be perceived as healthier.
Are they healthier?
So a lot of the times the ingredients, the stuff that's actually in them is comparable to their counterpart.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay, so how would you categorize all this food then?
So essentially, we want to be decoupling what we're worth from the foods that we're eating. And being
that is a deep, I need you to repeat that, because that is a deep concept. We need to separate what we're worth from what we're eating. Describe that a little bit more for me.
Yeah, so sort of that like morality piece, right? Like, we think that we're bad for eating these foods and all of that. And it doesn't need to be that way, right? We can just view food as just food and leave it at that. It has nothing to do with who we are as people. So if we're going to do that, if we're going to I want to get to the point where you're looking at all these things. Like, how do we eat then as a registered dietitian? Like, if it's okay to eat that cupcake,
and the Mickey D's. Is it also, like, when do I need to turn to the oikos? I don't know.
Yeah, so I think it can be really helpful to work towards a more neutral relationship with food and make peace with food in a way, and that's where intuitive eating can come in.
I love that. I love talking about intuitive eating. I do want to flip these around because I think that's a really interesting point, is that you want to flip the key on this. So she says this is junk food. No, this is just
These are
food.
all just food. Everything
This
here
is
on
healthy.
this table
is just food. It's all
is
food.
just food. It's just energy for our bodies.
That is the whole fork to fuel part. Talk to me a little bit more about intuitive eating.
Yeah, so I like to think of intuitive eating as the way we used to eat when we were babies, right? Like we would cry when we were hungry, but we would stop when we were full. And over the years, we've sort of moved away from that because we're listening to messages like we can't eat past 7, or we can only have X amount of carbs or calories in a day.
Yeah.
So we started relying on external factors rather than being able to trust our own bodies.
Aha.
But more formally, intuitive eating is a set of 10 principles created by 2 dietitians around the 90s.
Okay.
And it was meant to serve as a way to sort of guide us and transition us away from the diet mentality.
Right. Now, intuitive eating is great, but there is like a big mental health piece in when it comes to eating, because a lot of times there's mental health wrapped up in overeating, and then there's also a mental health wrapped up in trying to restrict food. So how would someone best start to understand intuitive eating, and where do they go for more information on that?
Sure. So a few tips that I like to recommend is to be able to start practicing honoring your hunger. So I think we've gotten away from we're trying to suppress our hunger all the time, ignore our hunger cues. So really trying to tune in to what that actually feels like in your body, right? If we're hangry, if we're lashing out at our partner, our coworkers, if we're irritable, low energy, we can't focus, that probably means that we've gone too long without eating.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, well, that makes sense. I'm hungry right now just talking about this.
Another tip that I like to encourage people to do is we like to compare ourselves a lot to other people, especially that happens a lot on social media. So unfollowing or muting people on social media can be a helpful tool as well, to not just see it all the time as we're scrolling.
Yeah.
And then
do what I do. Just follow lots of kitten and puppy videos. That's what you should just do. That'll make you happier every day. Well, thank you so much, because I have so many more questions, and I know we can't get into right now, but I really appreciate you introducing this concept to us, for certainly a way of maybe, looking into this more, and that looking at food just like it's food. I love that concept. Thank you so much.
Thank
All right.
you.